On this week's Nosebleed Radio, we welcome on Bob Fescoe of 610 Sports. We talk KC sports with him. Before the interview, we dive right into the NBA and NHL playoffs, talk about the conference championships going on there. After the interview, we talk a little bit of MLB and some KC barbecue. We wrap it up with our final thoughts. So let's get to it. Roll the music.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
You're listening to Nosebleed Radio. Here's your host, Tucker Franklin.
What is up? Episode 15 of Nosebleed Radio is up and running. I'm here with the boys. You know them already. Kieran Brennan.
How's it going?
Toby Todd.
What's up?
And Shane Miller.
Hey, how's it going, Roll Hawks?
Episode 15, our famous number 15. Shane, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll go first. The first one I've got here for this week is two-time national champion Tommy Frazier. Known for the run-and-gun style under Tom Osborne, he ran the option like it was made up for him. He's got 2 rings on him now. And I've got another one, similar to when we did episode 7, but I've got rugby 15s. So a little bit of a stretch, but it works.
I like it. Tommy Frazier, maybe future guest?
Maybe future guest. I'll talk to Verse.
We'll put that out there. Maybe
We'll see what
future
happens.
guest Tommy Frazier. Toby, what do you
Maybe
got?
future guest.
I've got another Tom. This one's got 8 rings as a player, 2 more as a coach. Not trying to one-up Shane's guy, but Tom Heinsohn. He was a player for the Celtics back in the Bill Russell era. He became the head coach of 6, won 2 more championships. He's now the color commentator in Boston. And I think our podcast as a whole could really benefit from having an old crotchety man with a Boston accent come on and speak. And I've also got Carlos Beltran when he was with the Royals in his time shortly after, switched from 36 to 15 in Kansas City. And he was a stud here. Glad he finally got a World Series ring under the number 15, not under the number 3 like the Cardinals tried to make him wear. Shame on the Cardinals.
Boo. KB, who's your number 15s?
All right. My number 15s, one of them is God's gift to the planet Earth. He sent his son, Jesus Christ. His second gift was 2-time national champion, should have been 4-time Heisman Trophy winner, the best player to walk the face of the earth, Tim Tebow. He not only is he the best football player to ever play the game, also just the best person, going into these developing countries, doing surgeries, circumcisions, saving children, baptizing them. I mean, you just can't get better all around. And the second person is arguably, or in my opinion, one of the best defensive outfielders. I think he's underappreciated, Mr. Jim Edmonds.
Is Tim Tebow really baptizing kids?
Yeah.
Can
Is
he
he
do that?
ordained?
Well,
Probably.
I
Yeah.
don't think you can do that if you're Catholic.
He's not
I'm
Catholic.
more
I don't think
He's not?
Tim Tebow's
more
not
about
Catholic.
the circumcision part.
Yeah, circumcising kids. He said, I know he, in his off seasons when he was with Florida, like when he wasn't doing like workouts and stuff like that. And if you have seen his workouts,
Those 2 hours during the day he wasn't doing workouts.
But he would go to the Philippines, and like him and his family and like the group of people that he went with, they would like perform operations and stuff like that. And he would like help perform operations.
Breaking Tim Tebow hates penises.
Tim Tebow hates foreskin.
My number 15s, I got a couple of Boston Red Sox. Kevin Millar, World Series hero when they broke the curse. Came back down 3-0, so that's pretty neat. And Dustin Pedroia making his rehab starts with the Pawtucket Red Sox. It looked like a sweet swing. I sent a video the other day of him taking some hacks in the batting cage. Looking pretty good. My last number 15 is Whit Merrifield, second baseman for the Kansas City Royals. Ned Yost tried to move him around. I took him a first baseman. Royals only have one first baseman on the roster. Now he's on the DL. So that's kind of a tricky situation.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I guess so. In Ned we trust. We'll go ahead and dive right into the NBA playoffs. We have conference finals in both the playoffs in NHL and the NBA. Start in the West in both. Toby, what do you think about this Rockets-Warriors series, evens at 1?
I just like that everybody, including just about every analyst across the board, Charles Barkley, Shaq, Stephen A. Smith, everybody who talks basketball on one of these major networks declared it over after Game 1. And Game 2 was pretty telling in a lot of ways because when the Rockets role players show up, they are essentially the same team as the Warriors. So the people who said that this was going to be a sweep, or Warriors in 5 and all that, I think everybody got a little bit ahead of themselves when they saw, Houston kind of give that game away in the second half of Game 1. I think this is going to be a series through and through. There's going to be road teams winning, home teams winning. There's going to be beatdowns. Pretty soon we're going to see close games. I think this series is going to have it all. These were the 2 best teams in the NBA this year, and this was the series everybody was excited to see, and I don't think it's going to let anybody down.
The thing that I hate about ESPN in really social media, like after the Warriors won Game 1, they were just, like you said, like they were like, oh, this series is over, blah, blah, blah. There's no way, like, this is what we all expected. Like, guys, it's Game 1, like, calm down. It's like overreaction Monday. Like, pump the brakes. We're going to wait for at least another game before we decide the series is over and all that.
Exactly.
So having said that, do you still think the Rockets can win this? Do you think it's still like heavily like would you still pick the Warriors, or do you think the Rockets have kind of like taken over?
The Warriors have to be favored simply because they have home court now.
Yeah.
It's so hard to go into Oracle and win playoff games, just games in general, but especially playoff games. As far as I know, they haven't lost one since Kevin Durant joined that Warriors team.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't lost a single home game in the postseason. With that being said, if there's a team that's going to beat the Warriors, it's going to be the Rockets. And if you get contributions from P.J. Tucker and Trevor Ariza for 4 of however many games they play in the series, if you get contributions from those guys for 4 games, then the Rockets have a great chance of winning this series. Problem is, I don't think the Warriors were ready for that kind of buzzsaw. Eric Gordon had 20 points off the bench after having a sort of quiet Game 1. Steph Curry shot 1 of 8 from 3 in Game 2, which is an anomaly. Klay Thompson went from 28 to 11 points. So it's important to not, focus on one game.
Yeah.
You just never, because you never know, especially when it's the 2 best teams playing, when it's a series of teams that are pretty much equally matched across the board. You just don't know what you're going to get night in, night out. But the Warriors, having been a team that's been there, done that, probably have to be favored at this point.
I agree with you there. I refuse to bet against the Warriors until someone proves me wrong that like they can get beat in these series. It's because, like you said, they haven't lost a home game since Kevin Durant, or a home playoff game since Kevin Durant joined this. They're just so good. They're so good. They play so well together. They have so much talent on the team. Like I don't know. I'm not going to bet against them until someone beats them.
The one positive you can take away if you're Houston was I haven't seen anybody do that to Golden State in the playoffs. And Durant had 38 points in Game 2. Like, Kevin Durant played an amazing Game 2, and the Rockets still won by almost 30. So I think if you're Houston, as bad as Game 1 was for you, and everybody called you out, James Harden had a 40-point game and you lost by double digits on your home court, as bad as Game 1 was, Game 2 should give you that much more confidence because of the play you've seen from other guys on the team. Even, Chris Paul, who didn't necessarily shoot the ball that well in either of those first 2 games, really played just about on par or better than Steph Curry played in those first 2 games. So I think there's a lot to look forward to for the Rockets. You can't rely on Steph and Klay to continue to miss shots at the rate they have because they're 2 of the best shooters in the world, and it's not going to happen all too long.
Well, that's the thing. If you're the Rockets, you basically have to like hope for the Warriors to miss shots like they did in the last game, and you have to like hope that you don't miss any shots either, because like you have to have James Harden and Chris Paul hitting all of their shots every game in order to beat the Warriors. If you start getting cold, it's too hard to beat the Warriors. They're going to capitalize on turnovers and things like that too much.
Agreed.
We'll go ahead and move on to the Eastern Conference here. Boston is playing LeBron James, and Boston is winning.
Yeah.
Apt analysis.
It was that pep talk I gave them.
Yeah.
You know, last week's episode, I told them just believe they do it. It was all me. That's on me. You're welcome, Celtics.
Did they win in the ring, or have you talked to them about that yet?
We're like in discussions now about it. But I think I've definitely been the biggest fan to have not attended a game this year. So that has to count for something.
Hang that banner up.
I think that my contributions from home are causing LeBron to miss free throws to keep us in games in the first half, well, at least game 2. And, you know, we talked about the overreactions to games 1 and games 2 in Houston. And a 2-0 series lead is really nice if you're Boston because you didn't want to give the Cavaliers home court advantage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you are playing the best player in the world. You're going back to their place. You were up 2-0 in a series earlier this year against Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, a team who's probably worse than Cleveland, took it to Game 7.
Yeah.
So you can't get complacent at all if you're the Celtics. This series is far from over too. So.
Yeah. No, I'm as a Celtics fan. Like obviously, I'm stoked that we're up 2-0 right now, but I am so nervous every time watching LeBron get the ball because you see what he can do. He had 1 points out of the 27 total in the first quarter in Game 2. Like that, he's a tank. So if he's on like he usually is, and you get Kevin Love or someone else who's get on too, that they are like they're a force. You know, you can't overlook that.
Yeah, no, he's scoring 100. He's scoring 100 points next game.
Yeah,
he's resting, especially since their next game is until Saturday. He's resting. He's in that ice bath and his other weird technology that he has. He's resting. He's getting ready to take 200 shots and score like 150 points.
Either that or he's already at the court warming up like he was for Game 2. He was there like 9 hours early or something trying to get some more shots.
Which is why the second half struggled because he was tired. He should have only been there 8.5 hours earlier or 8 hours earlier. He would have had enough.
Don't give him advice. He's probably listening.
I hope so. LeBron, show up. You can still show up super early, just a little later than super.
No, LeBron, please don't listen.
How many points do you think LeBron has to score for them to win a game?
150.
Well,
I'd say 40. 40 points.
He has been.
Okay, 45.
Yeah, he scored 2 in Game 2 and they lost.
Yep, 45.
The Cavaliers are honestly they're a pretty pathetic defensive
That's
team.
what I'm saying. I think realistically,
all across the board,
at least 50.
If the Celtics are making shots, LeBron James would have to have. He would have to have the most efficient 50-point games.
Yeah.
Beat the Celtics if the Cavaliers defense continues like he did in Games 1 and Game 2.
I was talking to Andrew Wigley about this, and he's a big LeBron fan. As you know, he wrote that blog about LeBron being the greatest basketball player of all time. And I told him, I said, if the Cavs want to win this series, LeBron has to average 50 points from here on out.
Yeah, I agree with you too because he's getting absolutely zero help from the rest of his team. This is why I think LeBron's gone after this year. I think he's gonna be like, you know what, I'm sick of scoring every single point to get us to the playoffs. I want to go somewhere where someone can help me out. I can dish the ball off to someone else, and it's not completely relying on me.
It's almost deja vu of the last time he was in Cleveland.
Yeah, when he went to Miami.
There's no Zildjius Ilgauskas there to help him out anymore.
Well, he's got Charles Manson's friend's nephew to help him out a little bit. Kevin Love, if you couldn't follow that.
So you think he's going? There. You think he's going to Lithuania? Play with that young ball kid, whichever one that one is.
They came back. They came back from
Whoa. Yeah. Gelatin, he was getting drafted, or he's entered the draft. So,
Speaking of getting drafted, did you see that Jonte Porter had the highest percentage of fat in the whole NBA combine?
Yeah, but he also has the highest percentage of heart and hustle and plucky stick-to-itiveness in the draft. So that's why he should be first overall.
What
That's
was
my
his-
pitch.
What
We're
was
a pro
his
on
percentage,
Facebook.
13%.
13%.
Holy cow.
I guarantee you I'm like
13.
50%.
I would say he's beating me for sure.
Yeah,
I read this tweet that
13's
was
only
like
back to some professional
I read this
athletes.
tweet that was like it was like me reading that Jonte Porter's 13%. Like, oh man, that's really high. And then also me, man, how does he get down to 13%? Like, it's ridiculous.
Going back to LeBron though, if he were to leave Cleveland after this year, like he did, in 13 or whatever it was, where do you think would be the best spot for him to go?
The New York Knicks.
You do? Is that a little preview on your favorite NBA team, or
It's not.
give us
It's
a
not.
little hint? Okay.
There's no hints
The
on
Knicks-
my favorite NBA team, but I think he'll go to the Knicks. Large market. The guy's a big personality. Got to go to a large market. Team hasn't won in a while. He wants to win. He automatically makes team a contender. Kristaps is there. Great basketball player. That would be
Kristaps
a
is
little
there.
bit of help.
Yeah, but you got to think he's played in Cleveland with an owner who has been unreliable, sporadic, kind of crazy, and the Knicks owner not much better. So wouldn't you think that LeBron, although he is a businessman, he would like to go to someplace with more stability?
Possibly.
Because he's a level guy, he's a businessman, so he wants to go someplace with
Another
I
businessman,
think-
the Mavs.
I think I still think the Lakers are a possibility. I think the 76ers are a real possibility.
Gotta be so
I just-
pissed.
The Cavs are out of it. I don't see him going to the Knicks because James Dolan's crazy. I see him. I'm
But
not.
Detroit, him and Blake Griffin. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I really
does.
thought
I bet he loves Little Caesars.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought he wouldn't go to the Western Conference, but the more you look at how bad does he want to win championships, just how much does he want to catch Kobe, Jordan, in this? So there is actually no debate from here on out. 'Cause that's the only debate you have anymore is 6 is
rings.
greater than 3. If he wants to get serious about that, I think the best destination, and this would just fuck the NBA, but he would go to Houston because he's a guy who, and you saw it even in the first half of Game 2, the Cavaliers were best when LeBron James could draw the defense and kick to Korver, who had 11 points in 9 minutes. He didn't score the rest of the game. That's when the Celtics really just gang raped the Cavs and took Game 2 from them. But you fill him with a roster of guys that Clint Capella, elite rebounder like Tristan Thompson, a bunch of other three-point shooters. His buddy Chris Paul is on the team already. If you get egos sorted out between CP3, James Harden, and LeBron James, there's probably no finer team in basketball if they could make that coexist. So Houston could be a legitimate possibility if you were worried about the rings. But I think he's done enough in his career, and you can kind of tell just when he gives interviews that he feels like his legacy is set.
Yeah.
The people who like Jordan think that Jordan's going to be the greatest player. No matter what happens, no matter who does what in the NBA from here on out, they're always going to say Jordan. Same with Kobe fans, same with LeBron fans. So I think he's kind of come to terms with that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of New York first because him playing in Madison Square Garden all the time, all those home games, would be insane for the NBA.
Yeah.
Because, he's good, but the best player New York's rooting for right now is a 7'3" foreigner. I don't know. I think the biggest player in the game, going to the biggest market in the game, just worked perfectly for real.
Yeah, it fits.
We're going to move on to the NHL playoffs. We'll start in the West like we did in the NBA playoffs. Vegas and Winnipeg. That's going to be a series. That's going to go 7 games.
I agree.
They said after the game yesterday on NBC, the guy said had the Jets won yesterday's game, he would have picked the Jets to win in 5. So, in his mind, Marc-Andre Fleury has to be God, pretty much. Because in the entire third period in Game 2 was literally the Knights saying, I don't want to play hockey anymore. Marc-Andre, can you just hand us this game, please?
But he had,
And
30 saves?
Yeah, well, the Jets had 3 shots on goal in the first period.
Yeah.
And then they had I forget the numbers. I think they had 16 in the second, and they had even more shots on goal in the third period. And I don't know. Marc-Andre Fleury he's just too good right now. Nobody can stop Scheifele from scoring for the Jets, but it's just not enough when you play against them because they just get timely goals. Then they'll go into huge lulls, and Marc-Andre Fleury will save them. So, I don't know.
Do you remember when he used to be really bad in the playoffs? That's what he was known for, was being bad in the playoffs?
Yeah, and that's why they got Matt Murray to replace him in Pittsburgh.
Right, because Matt Murray is good in the playoffs and not in the regular season.
Yeah.
So they just flipped the roles. But now Marc-Andre Fleury is just good all the time.
Now he's just the greatest goalie on ice.
Is there better goalies on land? Tim Howard.
Well, roller hockey, you never know. I don't pay attention to roller hockey enough.
Is ice land?
Oh. Whoa. No, this is water.
Well, what's the definition of water?
H2O. It's just frozen water.
Frozen water that you can walk on. What's the definition of land?
I guess I don't know that.
But if you owned land, wouldn't if there was water on that land, you would still own that water. If you owned a pond, it'd still be land that you owned.
It'd be your property,
right? So I'm gonna say that water is land.
Oh, hot take. Back to hockey though.
Winnipeg is really good. They're big and they're fast and they can score goals. And they have Scheifele. They have Bufflin. Big Buff. You see that picture of him grabbing those 2 Vegas guys by the collars? That was such a
sweet picture.
I'm cheering for Winnipeg now, even though they beat us. Because, you always want to lose to the team that wins the cup. You don't want to lose to a team that loses in the semifinals or loses in the conference finals. Because that's not cool. You could say, hey, we lost to the guys that won the whole thing. But Winnipeg is a wagon. They are legit. And I think that they will beat Vegas, but it'll be in 7.
I'm not even I'm at the point of the playoffs in hockey where I'm happy watching all the games. I don't care who wins anymore since the Devils are out, and I like the stories behind all the teams. I like Winnipeg being they could be the first Canadian team to win the cup since '93. I like Vegas just because I like Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't really buy into the whole Misfits thing, but because they have a lot of really talented guys, but. I do like Vegas. I like the whole atmosphere they got going on down there. Capitals, obviously, you want to see Ovi win a cup eventually. I'm getting sick of him always losing. It's nice to see him beat the Penguins, but I'd like to see him go all the way. And then Tampa, I don't like them, so they're the only ones I don't like.
We'll go over
but
that
you know what?
series
But
then.
the same thing though. They beat the Devils, so they'd be the team who beat my team would win then. So I'm happy no matter what happens anymore. But yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's talk about the Eastern Conference. The Caps and the Lightning. The Caps really shocked me those first 2 games winning them, and they blew them out the second game, 6-1 or 6-2 or something like that. And that shocked me because we talked about with Mikey last week that the Lightning are a really good hockey team. I think he called them a wagon, like I just called the Winnipeg. I think he called the Lightning a wagon, and I don't disagree with that. It was insane how the Capitals just dealt with them like they did. Coming back, I think the Capitals have only won. I think they've had 5 home games in the playoffs, and they've only won 2 of them.
Oh, that's not good.
So, home ice advantage doesn't really exist in the series. Well, it's not a series until the away team wins, which it was already a series because the Caps went and beat them on their ice. They're actually playing right now. Let me pull up that score. They're probably
They lost.
Lightning.
Yep.
It's 2-2.
It's 2-2 now.
Okay.
So what they say 2-0 is the worst lead to have in all of sports because statistically you blow that more than any other one. So. I think as a Capitals fan, the first game, I would be worried if I was a Capitals fan after beating the Penguins because there was so much energy put into that. There was so much hype surrounding just playing the Penguins again, I would be worried that they were going to, somehow overlook or, forget they had to keep playing more hockey. That was almost like the Stanley Cup for them, was just to beat the Penguins.
Right.
So it's oh, shit, now we got to go play Tampa, this super talented team from Florida. I don't know. But then they went out and just killed them. So I was like, okay, then you win the second game, and you're like, oh, no, it's going to be the old Capitals again that choke in the playoffs. Just this time it's to Tampa Bay and not to Pittsburgh. Just same story, different chapter. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Playoff momentum is so confusing in all sports because, like, after you beat the team that has given you so many problems over the years, I don't know if you'd feel relieved just to get past them and say, okay, we did it. Or if you're like, okay, now that we're past that, the rest of this is cake, you know?
Yeah.
Just the mental psyche of some teams in the postseason is just fascinating. And, like, sports psychologists could explain it a lot better, but it just seems so different from team to team, from player to player. And the Lightning, they showed a great deal of mental toughness to go into Washington and win 2 straight after losing those first 2 at home and, like Tucker said, getting absolutely blasted like they did on their home ice. To come back and win 2 in Washington, I think bodes a lot better for the Lightning than winning those first 2 did for the Capitals. I think that for the rest of the series, I feel like it's the Lightning's to lose now. Because there's just so much talent on that team. They talked about Marc-Andre Fleury being the best goalie in the playoffs. Well, Andrei Vasilevsky for the Lightning has probably been the least talked about but best goalie through these playoffs. I think he had 36 saves tonight and only those 2 goals allowed. You know, I want Ovechkin to win one so bad, but I just think the Lightning are a better team than the Capitals. I think if I had to make 2 predictions right now, I'd say Jets in 7, Lightning, who knows, maybe in 6, maybe winning 4 straight. But right now, I think the Lightning might go ahead and win the Stanley Cup. To be honest, like just the mental toughness to go through, win 2 road games, and in a city that's been aching for playoff success, to send those fans home unhappy 2 straight nights. Yeah. Lightning stuff.
If I had to pick my winners out of the 2 conferences, I think I'd take Winnipeg out of the West and then Tampa out of the East. And then I think the blue team will win the Stanley Cup.
Let's do that. Let's go out horn. Toby, who do you think is your choice for the Stanley Cup final?
Stanley Cup final, I do have Jets and Lightning. I've got Lightning taking it over the Jets. And I think that finals MVP probably go to Vasilevsky for the Lightning.
KB, who do you got?
I'm not sure. I think the Lightning will beat the Caps. I never believe it's the Caps' year. I think that the joke that Shane's favorite joke about Alex Ovechkin, White Russian, no cup, I think that's just too good. I think that Destiny's like, yeah, that joke's great. We don't ever want to give that joke up. And I really want the Knights to win. I don't care. I love it all. I'm all in on the Knights. So Knights, Lightning, I want the Knights to win, but I think the Lightning will do it.
I like the confidence. You're oozing confidence right now. My pick for the Stanley Cup Finals is going to be the Winnipeg Jets coming from the Western Conference. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'll have Jets in 7. We'll go ahead and get into our interview with Bob Fescoe of 610 Sports. I sit down, I talk a little bit with him about Kansas City sports, everybody's favorite sports teams. We had a little troubles with the internet connection, so we apologize for some of the shoddy audio in the interview with Bob, but enjoy the interview. It is a great talk if you are a Kansas City sports fan. After that, we will talk a little bit of MLB baseball. So here he is, Bob Fescoe. I'm here with Bob Fescoe of 610 Radio, host of Fescoe in the Morning. Bob, how are you doing today?
Okay, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. You know, that your show's on 610 Sports in Kansas City, goes from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. How do you like that 6 a.m. slot?
You know what? I love it. And it's one of those things where people say, do you ever get used to getting up at that hour? And my answer is no, you never get used to getting up at 4:30 in the morning, but I would rather have it either way because it just frees you up to do so many other things, and being a dad and having the opportunity to be around my kids all the time is perfect. So I love it, man. It's great.
Yeah, and I saw you talked about Travis Kelce on your show today, got a little fired up. Why don't you tell the people who are listening now who didn't really get to listen to the show what that was all about?
He was on a show on the Viceland channel the other day and was talking about the TV show Catching Kelce. And he said the show came out, and word of the show came out the day before he signed his big $45 million contract with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs weren't happy with him doing the TV show. And my whole philosophy is these guys have a very short window of time to play in the NFL, and in the NFL, they'll cut you tomorrow and owe you no money, and they don't really treat these players like people. They like commodities, and they've got to use this platform to try to find something else to do once football's over, and Travis Kelce was doing that. And for the Chiefs to be mad at him for doing that, I think it's a little short-sighted on their part because it brings a lot of brand recognition to the Chiefs, but it also gives Travis Kelce and other players something to do and fall back on once football's over because football doesn't last a real long time.
Right, we'll keep on the Chiefs topic, too. I'm kind of confused what they're doing this offseason with the defense. It seems like they've cut a lot of guys, but you thought at the beginning they were getting rid of attitudes, but then they draft a little bit of questionable attitudes in the draft. So what are your thoughts on the Chiefs draft this year?
Well, I don't know any of the players they can do because, quite honestly, I don't care around because they're more part of the future than they are part of what's going to happen right now. And I've been saying for the last couple of months that I'm looking at this as a 32-game season, really this year plus next year. And then January of 2020, once they reach the postseason, that's when this team should start having success. And I like the draft because they got defensive players. They obviously need help on the defensive side of the ball. You trade Marcus Peters, you cut Derek Johnson, Tom Lee moves on. There's a lot of new faces on that defense, and you've got to get young in the NFL. And I like the fact that they looked at that when we need defensive players. We've got a lot of good talent on offense right now. We need talent on defense, and they got all defense. So for that, I love the draft.
Yeah, and their offense, they added Sammy Watkins, a powerful offensive weapon. Do you think that offense will be able to keep up with pace, especially with plugging Pat Mahomes in?
My only concern is that they're not going to have enough time on the field because the defense won't be able to stop anybody to get off.
Yeah.
I want to see 75 plays a game. I want to see Mahomes air it out. I want to see Sammy Watkins in the red zone catching touchdowns. I want to see how they utilize him and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt. I mean, they've got so many weapons, and you want to see so many different guys do so many different things. You just hope the defense doesn't get bogged down when they can't stop anybody, and the opposition just running all over top of them, taking time off the clock and preventing them that you saw getting on the field. That's what I would do if I was the coach. I'd grab a running back every week I was playing the Kansas City Chiefs and just run it down their throat, and make you stop them because they've shown over the years they can't stop the run all that much.
Yeah, that's true. What did you think about the acquisition, or not really the acquisition, the drafting of Breeland Speaks?
It fills obviously a need for this organization and anybody that can be a big body and somebody that can make a play in the running game and somebody who could stop, the opposition because they haven't had those guys in a while. I mean, you've had the running backs from every team in this league run all over the top of the Chiefs. And then when you face a good running back, they really run all over the top of the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you can draft guys that know how to tackle, that know how to make plays, that know how to plug gaps and plug holes and can get up there and get ugly and get dirty and get physical, I'm all for that. I just love guys that want to go out there and not necessarily become superstars, but want to be part of a team and play ugly and play dirty and make the plays that need to be made, because that was what was lacking in that playoff game. I mean, nobody made plays that needed to be made, and they ended up losing a 16-point lead.
Yeah. What do you think is the big real gap for the Chiefs that they really, if they're gonna win that second round playoff game, get to the AFC Championship, that they're really gonna have to improve on this year?
Well, I think number one, it's the running game, but now number two, it's your defensive backs. So who's out there right now besides Eric Berry that anybody knows? I mean, right. There's a couple of names out there that they acquired, obviously in the trade and then picking up the dude from the Raiders and whatnot. But you don't even really know who's playing next to Eric Berry right now. And we don't even really know how good Eric Berry's going to be coming back off an Achilles injury. Those are tough injuries to bounce back. And Eric's not getting any younger, so I'm interested to see how he's going to be and how he's going to perform this year and how healthy he is. I don't have any doubts. I mean, the dude beat cancer, so I feel pretty good about Eric Berry. Yeah. I think it'll be Daniel Sorensen, and you lose Ron Parker, and I know people go, whatever, but Ron Parker was still a pretty good defensive back. He was still pretty good safety back there. Chiefs when he was running with Eric Berry. So it's going to be real interesting to see those defensive backs and what they're capable of doing. But I also think the pass rush, who's rushing the quarterback this year? That's what they're going to have to answer. Is Steve Ford going to be able to stay healthy for an entire season? Never has. Is John Houston going to earn any money since signing that big contract? Hasn't so far. So, you got two players that should be able to get after the quarterback, but there's still big question marks as well.
Now, they cut Raheem Nunez-Roches the other day, and he signed with the Colts. What did you think about them cutting him? I was kind of confused by that move.
I think we all were, because I look at him again as depth along that defensive line and a guy that has shown some promise. I mean, some of the preseason games he's had, I know it's preseason, but he gets to the quarterback, man. He makes plays. He looked exciting. He looked fun. And it just seems like they're trying to weed out a lot of the Dorsey guys for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, you treat Peters, now not that Nunez-Roches is the same as Dorsey, but a guy who can play a position where you need depth and where you need a lot of folks to be able to play, and you're going to need guys over the course of the season. It just not, especially a guy that was here for a while and not making any money, and that they just signed or gave a tender to in the offseason that prevented him from going somewhere else. So I don't understand that one, and you hope that's one where there's probably more behind the scenes than we know, but who knows? It just could be another type of move where they decide to get rid of Marcus Peters for no reason too.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of like the old Chiefs regime. The Chiefs really got drained from Doug Peterson to Chris Ballard to John Dorsey, and they just seem like, just front office-wise, they haven't really been able to recover.
Well, they brought in a couple of guys, or a guy, I should say, from the Eagles, and obviously you win a Super Bowl, you want to poach that organization.
Right.
But it's Matt Nagy, too, going to Chicago, and I think he's the that this team is going to have, and it's going to be interesting to see how Andy Reid really utilizes his new offensive coordinator and Eric Bieniemy, and whether or not it's he lets him be involved in the offense, or he just kind of takes advantage of him because he's a young guy in that coordinator position for the first time. And I hope Eric Bieniemy can keep Andy Reid in check, because Andy Reid's biggest enemy is Andy Reid. So I think that's going to be interesting to see that dynamic there. You lose him, you lose Brad Childress. Him being Nagy, Childress is gone, Doug Peterson. That's three big-time offensive minds over the last, 3 seasons now that you've lost. And you haven't really replaced those guys. It's not like you went out and hired guys from another staff or anything like that. They just promoted guys from within, and I think they're kind of at their level of promotion right now.
Yeah. Before we move on to across the Truman Sports Complex, what's your prediction for the Chiefs season this year?
I did the schedule like everybody does the day it comes out. I got them winning 11 games, but I'm not looking at this as what they have to do record-wise. I don't care what they do record-wise. I want to see this defense play good. I want to see Pat Mahomes look like a 16-game starter like he did in the one game. I want to see everybody take their game to a new level and get better. I liken it to the 2011 Royals. Not worried about the record. We're worried about what these guys are doing and how much better they got from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and then carry that over into 2019. And I'll start making judgments on this team record-wise once we hit January of 2020 and into the playoffs.
Yeah. You mentioned the Royals, 2011 Royals, they were all trying to get better. It seems like that's what these Royals are trying to do, is just get better. Go ahead.
No, I said that's what you got to do at this point in the year. I mean, you're 13 wins in a 45-game schedule already, or whatever it is, and it's just about getting better, man. It's about getting better and improving and letting some of these young guys play and letting them, learn from making mistakes right now. So in 2020, 2021, when you're out there ready to compete and get back to the postseason, these guys are seasoned and they're ready to go. And that's the way you have to look at this year for the Royals.
It's kind of tough to see, especially losing Eric Hosmer. Did you really expect the Royals to get off to just this slow of a start?
No, I thought they would be a lot better. And really, when you look at what's been disappointing, it's Duffy, it's Jason Hamill, it's Ian Kennedy. I mean, those are the three big guys in your rotation, and those guys have really scuffled. I mean, Kennedy's given up 14 runs in his last 2 starts. Hamill has been, not that great, and Duffy, for whatever reason, he's having a tough time getting out of this funk right now. So those are 3 guys that you look at that you shouldn't have to worry about, that you really have had to worry about. Now, the bullpen wasn't great at the beginning of the year, but they're starting to find their way a little bit, and, they're doing some good things out of the bullpen, and some young guys are starting to learn, like that Bert Smith, that Rule 5 guy with his hair. And maybe he's a guy that's, part of your future bullpen in 2020 and 2021. And you look at what Junis and Skoglund are able to do in the rotation from time to time, and Soler is playing lights out right now. So there are some really positive points about this team that you can take away. And those are the things you have to look at and build upon to get through a 162-game schedule right now.
think if you really look at their lineup isn't what's killing them. It looks like a solid lineup when they march those 8 guys, 9 guys out onto the field.
Yeah, it does, and that's the thing. I mean, Mike Moustakas is the free agent steal not only of this year, but the decade for what they're paying him. We talked about Soler knocking the cover off the ball. Alex Gordon seems to have found it again. Whit Merrifield's as steady as they get. Salvador Perez is doing well back in the lineup. I mean, you've got some guys now out there that are producing for you and doing good things in the lineup. Now, they haven't been great with runners in scoring position, and obviously you want to do better in that department, but I don't think it's an offensive reason as to why they're losing a lot of games. I think a lot of it has been starting pitching right now for this team.
Yeah, I think pitching has a lot to do with it. I mean, it's basically a third of the game, hitting, catching. So,
yeah.
What did you think about Whit Merrifield's quote about these guys about losing and he doesn't like losing?
Yeah, I like to hear that. You know, you want to hear every once in a while that it bothers them as much as it bothers fans. And I know this year shouldn't bother fans a whole heck of a lot because they are beginning that rebuilding process right now. They're trying to grow the organization. But you want to hear the players say it sucks. You want to hear the players say losing isn't it. You want to know that they're feeling it like Whit Merrifield was. And it's always good to hear that. And some people say, well, what are they going to do to turn it around? Well, I think we're kind of past that time. If you're still holding out hope that all of a sudden this ball club is going to turn it around, I think that's false hope right now. I think what you have to look at is, are guys improving? Is Jorge Soler better at the end of the year than he was at the beginning of the year? Can you count on Alex Gordon again? Where's Skoglund going to factor in? Where's, Junis going to factor into this? How about some of those young guys out of the bullpen? Where are they going to factor in moving forward? Those are the things you have to look at right now and judge the season based on individual performances by the young guys that could be part of the future of this organization as opposed to worrying about wins and losses. Because I think if you're worrying about wins and losses this year, boy, you're really going to stress yourself out.
Yeah, you sure will. You're going to wear yourself thin. You mentioned Danny Duffy earlier about how he hasn't really pitched that well. He's admitted it open to the public. What do you think about like his approach there, and what do you think's really gone wrong for him?
I think Danny's biggest problem is he can't let the past go. And instead of going out and having a fresh start each day or every fifth day, he goes out there trying to make up for what he didn't do that last start. And that's Danny's personality. Danny does not want to let Kansas City down. He wants to be a Royal. He wants to be part of this organization. He wants to do everything to win here in Kansas City. And I think the losing gets to him more than it's ever gotten any other athlete I've ever seen. I mean, he takes it really, really hard because he wants to do so well. And that sometimes can get in the way. When you want to do something so bad, sometimes you try too hard. George Brett used to say all the time, you got a case of the try too hards. And sometimes you go out there and you try to hit a 5-run home run or strike out 6 guys with 1 pitch. Those are things that are impossible to do. So Danny has to forget about the past. He has to have a bad memory and just worry about the future. And I think if he does that, I think he's going to be okay. But he has to get back to thinking that way.
On the flip side of that, Jake Junis has really been a very impressive pitcher so far, and I think it shows just what talent he has.
Yeah, it really does, and it also shows, I sit here at my desk and I've got the prospect handbook every year, and I keep it close by, and you look through it and you say, all right, where are some of these guys ranked, and who are some of these guys in this prospect handbook right now, for the Kansas City Royals, and you look at some of the guys that are there, and Nick Prado not ready, Khalil Lee, Josh DeMont, Skoglund's number 5 on this list, Dozier, Foster Griffin. You start to go through and you're like, all right, where is our guy from this year? Where is somebody who's up at the big league level right now that's doing real well? And you don't find them listed in that prospect handbook. And those are the guys that you really have to count on, because not always are you going to get your top 30 prospects to do good things. I mean, Salvador Perez wasn't a top 30 prospect. Danny Duffy wasn't a top 30 prospect. They weren't even top 100 prospects in baseball, and they came up and became cornerstones for this organization to turn it around. So you have to count on some of these guys like a Jake Junis to come up here, to this level and do some good things and start to count on some guys that maybe you weren't counting on before. And that's really where you make a team. And so when people say the Royal system is taxed and they don't have anybody down there, they may not have anybody down there right now and ready to go that and maybe not anybody that they were counting on years ago to be up at the big league level with things, but they got guys that are doing some good things at the big league level right now that nobody were counting on. And that's a pretty good haul if you're the Kansas City Royals. So you've got some guys in the system that are producing right now.
So for the Royals this season, we know it's not going to be about wins, but where do you think they're going to end up? Do you think I'll set the over-under at about 70.
For wins?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say the over on that, but the math isn't working right now. I just don't want them to lose 100 right now.
Yeah.
You want to stay away from that 100 loss mark. But the worse you do, the better draft pick you get. And the Royals have shown that when they pick fairly high, they get a Hosmer, they get a Moustakas. I mean, those are the first 2 draft picks that Dayton Moore had in this system, and they proved to be the building blocks to bring this team a world championship. So, I like the odds of them drafting high, and I know they're really reinvesting themselves into scouting and development and trying to make this ball club a winner again.
I think some people forget, since they were just recently a winner, that I think they admitted really that they're going to commit to a rebuild. So
yeah, and it happens to every team. I mean, baseball is so hard to keep a cyclical pace. Like even the Yankees didn't do it for a while. They weren't in the World Series and postseason every year. You have those runs where you do well and then you come back down, and then you do well and then you come back down. I mean, that's kind of the way that baseball is built, and kind of the way that baseball, has gone for years. It's just that way. Every team does it. The Astros will eventually come back down. The good thing is, so many teams try to do what the Royals did, where they go out and they win a world championship based on their minor league system. Mm-hmm. And then you have teams like the Cleveland Indians, the Detroit Tigers, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Could you imagine being a Pirates fan and having all those years where you make the playoffs and get knocked out in the wild card round? The Royals accomplished their goal. What the Royals did was truly spectacular. And in the modern age of baseball, since 1994 when the strike was, there's only one team in a television market 20 or below to make it and to win the World Series, and it's the Royals. And they did it in back-to-back years. And it goes to show you just how difficult it is to make the World Series, but even how much more difficult it is to win the World Series. And to go to back-to-back World Series in this day and age is almost unprecedented in baseball.
Right. Do you think Kansas City will ever get a basketball team?
Yeah. I just don't think there's enough money, enough corporate support in this town right now. We've got 3 really good franchises, and we've got colleges so close that everybody supports. I just don't know that the appetite – I think the appetite is there, but I don't know that the financial, needs are there. And Sprint Center does so well by itself with so many other events. Having an anchor tenant will only prevent them from having great concerts and events down there that I know they love having, and I know what Kansas City loves having too.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think you think of the families that are the owners. You think of the Glass family. You think of the Kaufman family. And who owns Sporting Kansas City? I can't think of that right now.
Guys over at Cerner, Cerner Corporation, they're in it. So, my whole take has always been, I don't want one of our current teams to have to suffer because we're adding in another team. And I just don't think that the pie is big enough for another team in this town.
I agree with you. We had Carrington Harrison on the podcast earlier this year, and we asked him this question. Yeah. We said, what's your favorite barbecue spot?
There are so many different ones. Smokehouse Barbecue is the best beans in Kansas City. You're not going to find better beans than Smokehouse Barbecue. And I think everybody has their own spot for whatever it is that they like, whether it's burnt ends at LC's. I know a lot of people like that, and, pulled pork, and, there's so many different spots so you can get that. But my go-to is always Smokehouse. I love the beans. My kids crave them all the time, and when you have a 7- and 8-year-old and they crave something other than a hot dog, it's a great situation to be in.
Yeah. Well, Bob, thanks for coming on and talking Kansas City sports. Love talking to you.
You got it, my man. Thanks for having me, and thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem. Big thanks to Bob Fescoe coming on the podcast, talk a little bit of Kansas City sports. Favorite barbecue place, Smokehouse. We talked about that. Let's talk about all our favorite barbecue spots. Everyone knows mine is Kansas City Joe's. KB, what's your favorite spot?
Well, there used to be a really good barbecue spot here in Marshall, but it burned down, and it was a barbecue pit stop. So I'm kind of a free agent right now.
Available for influence.
Decision to come soon, hopefully. Excel spreadsheets and figure it out from there.
Yeah, like my NBA favorite team. He needs to do it.
Probably not as soon as you guys would like, but maybe. We'll see.
Toby, what's your favorite spot?
My favorite spot, classic Gates. It's the one that's closest to home. It's where we get barbecue most of the time. I also really like Wyandotte Barbecue. My dad grew up in Wyandotte County. He loves it. I really like their barbecue, so Gates and Wyandotte up there, 1-2 for me.
Shane, we've talked about this before. The other place you've had in Kansas City is Kansas City Joe's, but is there anywhere up in Omaha that you like?
Oh, yeah. Real mom-and-pop place called Famous Dave's. Don't know if you've ever heard of it. That was a joke because that's a chain. But my sister's husband actually used to, like regional manager of Famous. I don't know. He was pretty high up in Famous Dave, so we'd always get like discounts whenever we go. So we used to go all the time.
Would you say
that was fun.
Would you say he was famous at Dave's?
He was pretty famous at Dave's. One of my other cousins also worked there, and like whenever you answer the phone, you'd say like, "Thanks for calling Famous Dave's. This is Famous Jeff," or like whatever your name is. And there was actually a guy there named Dave. So he'd be like, "Thanks for calling Famous Dave's. This is Famous Dave," like the Famous Dave.
That'd be sick. That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
We'll talk some MLB talk. Now, if you guys want to hear more in-depth MLB talk than what we're going to talk about right now, tune on in to KB and I's podcast, Turn 2.
Turn 2, baby!
We talked about baseball in-depth every week. Drops Monday. KB, what are you thinking about this season right now?
I'm thinking that it's going very unexpectedly. If you look at, like, if the playoffs started today, we would have, like, the Diamondbacks in, you'd have the Phillies in, you'd have the Braves in. One of those teams were teams that you would project to be in the major leagues. And that's one of my favorite things about baseball is it's not as predictable as the other sports. Like football, you can almost guarantee who could be in the conference championship competing for the Super Bowl. Basketball, the past couple of years, you can almost guarantee who's going to be in the finals. Baseball, new teams every year. I like it. A lot of turnover. I love it.
I like that a lot about baseball. And the more I'm watching baseball, the more and more I'm liking the Arizona Diamondbacks. So stay tuned for more Diamondbacks love from me.
I agree with Kieran. You know, I love the stories of these teams that have kind of come out of nowhere. The young stars on the Braves. I don't know if you remember the season preview we had. We talked about players that we thought were going to surprise us over the course of the season. I said Ronald Acuna for the Braves, so I'm glad that's coming to fruition. Also, Pittsburgh Pirates. I know Kieran probably doesn't like that NL Central rival of the Cardinals, but the Pirates are killing it right now. Big ups to my man Corey Dickerson, who the Rays traded away, and we're struggling like hell to hit home runs. He's having a very successful year in Pittsburgh. So, way to prove us wrong again, like all of our free agents do. And, just all the parity on baseball. I do like that the one constant that's remained has been the Yankees rivalry, because that's been very fun just early on in the season. And as much as we don't want the Yankees to make the postseason, I think a Red Sox-Yankees playoff series would be fantastic to watch.
Those are always great, especially there's been so many fights with the Yankees and Red Sox lately. Like, that would be super dope to watch in the playoffs. I've never seen a playoff fight before, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, one of those Pedro Martinez throwing down the cross field manager type
Love
deal.
That. Just a total bench clearing brawl.
You know, just in terms of sheer power, I probably wouldn't make the first move if I was Red Sox attacking the Yankees players.
Well, no, they have 3 linebackers on their team.
Yeah, pretty much. But who knows? I'm all for it. I'm all for that series. Like, if it comes to fruition and happens, I'm all for it. Neither one of those are actually my World Series pick. I still have Houston Astros going to the series. They're a very underrated team. Very cool race going out in the AL West too, between them and the Los Angeles Angels. Did you guys see Mike Trout is on pace for the greatest season in MLB history in terms of wins above replacement?
Yeah, I did.
God, he's so good.
I love it.
He's so good.
You can't argue that he's good. I never said that he wasn't good. He's a good baseball player. I just like Bryce Harper better.
He's so much better than Harper right now.
No, I mean, you can't argue with
Right now, you mean forever.
Cespedes Family Barbecue, we mentioned this, their Twitter account on Karen and I's page. On the first episode of our podcast, we said that they have a chart out that has however many wins above replacement that Mike Trout gets this season, how many Hall of Famers he'll pass. So he has a potential to pass some pretty big names, even if he just gets a measly 6-win war.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's on pace for 14 this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's
legit.
What was the stat on that? They said it would have been the best still season in terms of wins above replacement since Babe Ruth's 93 season.
Damn.
Wasn't that? I think that was the stat that was thrown out today. That's unbelievable. And what's even crazier is that in terms of just conventional, he's probably not even having the best season by an American League outfielder. by conventional statistics, because Mookie Betts is having one hell of a season in Boston, too.
Mookie Betts is the real deal.
There's a lot of good baseball being played right now.
Yeah.
None by my teams, the Royals or Rays.
Nope,
but
me either.
Yeah.
So I found that stat you were talking about, Toby, and it said only 2 players have accrued more WAR through their age 26 seasons than Mike Trout, and that's Ty Cobb and Mickey Mantle. Great names to be associated with.
I started to read an interesting article about, you know how there's always those stories about Ty Cobb, about how he was like the biggest like douchebag to ever play baseball, and he would like sharpen his cleats to like stab people and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So my dad sent me this article on Facebook. I'll send it to you guys because it was more than one page. I'm not going to read more than one page, so you guys have to give me a synopsis. But it basically none of that was true. It was just like a story created to make people like.
Well, that's interesting.
Another disclaimer: I only read like half a page. So, but the title said that most of that was fake. I read.
Or did Ty Cobb make up those rumors so that people would be intimidated by him and never want to cover bags when he would turn a single into a double?
That
when
might be in the article.
Guaranteed got his run output up.
You guys will have to read the article and let me know because I can't read. You know that.
You guys got any final thoughts?
I have got a pretty good one. I was scouring the internet looking for something interesting to say for my final thought, and came to Diddy, and it really made me ponder life a little bit. So here we go. All right. So if you ask someone, where are you? You know, that's like a recent thing to ask someone where they are. Because for phones, the only way to talk to someone, you had to know exactly where they were. You were either calling their house phone, or you were just directly talking to them face to face. So like the phrase, where are you? What?
Or sending message via pigeon.
Well, you would have to know where to send the pigeon.
Exactly.
So yeah. So the phrase "Where are you?" only came about in like the last 20 years or so since 30 years or so since cell phones came out. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Toby, what you got?
Well, I wish you guys could see the final thought that I put down, but we're not going to share that one.
I can share it if you want.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I guess my final thought would just be, you know what? I got nothing this week. I got no thoughts. Summer living.
Thoughtless man.
Thoughtless man.
KB?
All right, so the XFL account tweeted that in 2020 they will release their 8 teams, and they said, which cities do you think deserve a team? And St. Louis was shafted so hard by the Satan owner that is Stan Kroenke that I think they need an XFL team. And if they get an XFL team, I will become the biggest XFL fan that anybody has ever seen. I would love every second of it.
Kieran will start his own XFL podcast.
What would you
I
want
would start my own XFL podcast. Kieran's XFL Corner.
If a team came to, what would you want it to be named?
St. Louis Rams.
Ramrods.
St. Louis.
Say it. Ramrods.
Car Ramrod.
Say it. Say Ramrod.
Large Farvis. Spirit of St. Louis. That's a good team.
Ooh, that one. You'd fly over everybody.
That was a team named in St. Louis. That was our basketball team that left us also. God. Why do teams hate St. Louis so much?
Crime.
Maybe I hate the arch.
I hate Stanky. He's Satan, and he took our team, and he ironically put him in the City of Angels.
At first, I thought you didn't say Satan owner. I thought you said Saints owner, and I was like, the fuck did Tom Benz do the Rams? I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
No, he is Satan. He's the devil incarnate.
I got you now. I got you.
He owns the Avalanche, too, and a professional gaming team, and so I hate those teams as well.
Oh, you know what? I do have a final thought, because we were speaking about Satan and the devil, and that reminded me of Nick Saban from Alabama. And did anybody see today that Tua Tagovailoa, who's going to be one of these great quarterbacks of this college football season, thought about transferring out of Alabama if he didn't get any playing time in the national championship game?
Really?
I don't know if he's just blowing smoke if that's a true story or not. But they said his father came out and said that Tua asked if the USC offer was still on the table, knowing that Darnold will leave after this year, and that he would probably get to come in and start immediately at USC.
Wow.
And one half changed everything, and it kept Alabama relevant.
They weren't going to be relevant if they lost that game.
I mean, why go to USC when you could go to Butler's football team?
Butler Community College in Kansas.
Shout out Butler. My final thought is we were doing some talk about how Mike Trout may be the best baseball player ever, but we actually haven't seen him yet. He's still in the minor leagues. Vlad Jr. today, he was 4 for 4 with a home run, and he stole third base, so he is going to be the best baseball player ever.
He is so good.
Tuck, what's his defense?
Is it 420?
Last I saw was 415, yeah.
Tuck, what's his defense like?
Enough.
I think if you're batting 415 and like bouncing balls off hotels across the street, somebody should call you up. Like you've done enough in the minors.
He's 19 years old.
That's insane.
He is as old as I am. And he is hitting 410, base percentage of 453, a slugging percentage of 683, and an OPS of 1.137. That is some game. That is some video game to him.
Like what more does he have to like? This is literally like a guy you design in MLB The Show, and like he's on his way up, and you're just like destroying minor league teams.
His fielding percentage is not great. It's out of the 915, 935 area, so not great. He needs to improve on defense before I'll put him above my boy Mikey Trout, best baseball player ever.
Fun fact.
Would you call him up?
What?
Would you call him up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Fun fact.
The Blues just got nothing. Blues just got nothing else going on for him.
He plays for the Blue Jays, so he could just DH. He didn't have to play in the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's where like the argument comes in. Where like how do you compare DH to other players in regards of best players ever?
Yeah.
Since they didn't play defense.
Well, if it's Vlad Jr., he's the best player ever. I'm not overreacting. I'm just saying it like I see it.
That's the second biggest overreaction since I declared the Mets will be making the World Series because they beat the Cardinals in the opening series.
Tuck's just calling a spade a heart.
Yep. Vlad Jr. You'll see me in a New Hampshire Fisher Cats hat here in a little bit.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. But I really want to Binghamton Rumble Ponies, but they're rivals, so I'm gonna have to pick a side. That'll do it for this week's episode of Nosebleed Radio. Thanks for listening. For Kieran Brennan, Toby Todd, and Shane Miller, I'm Tucker Franklin. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at NosebleedSnow, like us on Facebook, Nosebleed Knowledge. We'll see you next week.